All right, here we are. Welcome to Hope After the Landslide. I am Jackie Rose, and I have my two friends on here, Karen White, who on my screen is in the middle, and of course Lisa D, who's been co-hosting with me for quite some time, and she's still telling everybody that I've been voluntolding her to do this, but Karen and I both know that she secretly is really liking this. She wants like a special shirt and everything else. So anyway, we are so glad that you're here. Please put in the comments where you're viewing from. We would love to know your name of your child that is passed on. We are so sorry that this is where you would have to be, but we're glad you have chosen Grieving Moms Finding Hope. Our four pillars are Christ, church, community, and compassionate care. We are faith based. Again, I'm repeating a lot of this for some of you that have been on here for the length of time that we've been doing this, but some of you may be new. So I wanted to start off by saying we do these on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, most Tuesdays. And the idea, of course, is to bring you hope and healing after you've been hit by this tragedy, this landslide that has just dropped upon you. The reason why I call it that is because the book Resurfacing that I have put together is a 12-week study that helps you to go through the grieving process. And you can find all of our information on grievingmoms.com. So all the things we're going to be, thank you, Lisa. All the things we're going to be talking about, you want more information, you didn't get what we said, just go on the website and you can find that. So don't be shy. Just start putting things in the comments. I'm just going to say hi once again to all of you. So tonight we have three of us, and of course I felt it appropriate to refer to the scripture Ecclesiastes 4:12. And it says, though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves, but a cord of three strands is not quickly broken. And which pretty much summarizes this entire ministry is that we are a tight, tight community of women that believe that Jesus has purpose for us and that our life was just not ended after the landslide had happened. Missy, hi, sweet friend. I just sent you an email today, but I found your address. Thank you so much for signing up for Hope and Healing Camp. You've got a gift that's going to be arriving in the mail, so I hope that you enjoy that, my friend. So, welcome to you being here. So, when we talk about the cord of three strands, I wanted to give you a couple of examples, and one being more new in the recent times, and one that goes back in some time. So many of you are familiar with Christine Kane, and I didn't realize this, but back years ago, she had taken a trip to one of the countries and she had come across a lot of child slavery, human trafficking. A lot of this was going on. And so she quickly came home and she put together an organization to help to be able to stop this in any way, shape, or form. So she didn't do it on her own, but she put together a group of women. So she had the cord of three strands and more to be able to do this. So it's called the A21 campaign, Abolishing Injustice in the 21st Century. And the A stands for, of course, the abolish, and the goal is to abolish slavery and human trafficking. The 21 refers to the 21st century, emphasizing the tragic reality that slavery, something many people think belongs to the past, still exists today. So Christine Kane is from Australia. She is the founder, but of course, she didn't do it alone. Then we have, of course, the story of Corrie ten Boom and her sister Betsy. Back in World War II, they took some of when the Nazis invaded, the Boom family began hiding the Jews in a secret room in their home. A direct act of defiance rooted in their belief in God's love and justice. They took a stand and they bonded together and they brought other people involved. And a lot of these people that got involved and brought together people to stand up for something in Jesus' name, a lot of them lost their lives over that. So basically, we are here as grieving moms, not to that level. I think it is to that level to where we are coming in and we are standing up in the face of darkness with Jesus to help to just get rid of the doubt and the fear, the hopelessness, the depression, all those things, standing on God's word. So tonight we're going to share with you guys a little bit about Karen's story, since many of you probably haven't heard Karen's story. She has been on Facebook Live prior. And then we're going to talk about, what is it, Karen? The faith, the hope, and the trust, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Aside from Missy, we want to say hi to Tracy and to Lynette. Welcome, ladies. I recognize some of these names, and it's okay if you didn't check your email, Missy, because I did find your address. But you can reply back and say hey. So hi, Tracy. So Karen, why don't you share the story about your sweet Joe?
All right. Just
Mm,
see, Joe passed away in 2019, so it's been 6 years now, which seems unbelievable. He, you know, the story is not a happy one with him. When he was small, he had behaviors that were not normal, and through time, it just kind of worsened. And by the time he was 12, he had his first overdose. And started into by 14 he was alcoholic, and then it just went on from there, and it got worse and worse, and by the time he was 24, he took his life. We lost him several times, once to mental illness, once to addiction, and then in finality to suicide. Um, so that's the story. If you've had a child that has had addiction and mental health issues, you will understand what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, then be thankful for that.
yeah.
So here I am.
And I
But
didn't realize he was 12.
Yeah.
That's so young. Oh my gosh, Karen, I'm so sorry.
yeah, so
So
he had 12 years, or we had. We were all tired at the end.
Mhm.
He was tired. And I get to hope. That's where I get to hope, because I had lost hope and he had lost hope.
Mm.
And we were both in very dark places at the time. So, but that's not the end of the story.
no, it's
And
not.
I always said that the devil won when he took Joe. I was fighting the devil for 12 years. The devil won, but he's not the winner in the long run.
Amen. Yeah, amen to that. So Karen, remind me again how you found the Grieving Moms community, because that probably goes along with what the faith, hope, and the trust.
I don't know.
You don't remember?
I don't remember. I probably just was looking online.
Karen says, "Don't ask me anything is going to make me like not know." And I figured, well, I'll ask her that. Well,
Do you remember who your first leader was? What your first group was like?
I do, Jackie.
Jackie was your first.
But you know
Okay.
what? I could only make it 6 months or
Mhm.
6 weeks.
Okay.
oh,
I couldn't do it any longer, and that's okay.
yeah, that is
It's
okay.
okay for all of us. We do the program in the time that we can do it and when we're able to do it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And if we start it and we're not able to finish it, that's okay. The next time we'll do better.
thank
Right.
you for
Let's take
saying
it.
that because that'll help
Yeah.
a lot of the moms that may be feeling the same way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I won't fault you for not knowing how you found the group. I'm just glad you found us.
I'm sure I Googled grieving moms or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, Karen is also one of our leaders, and so I'm not going to step in. I'll just say, why don't you just take those words and you can talk about how this journey has, been with this faith, hope, and trust, and bringing you here and having the faith. I guess you could say would be like about having a group and the ups and downs that went on with that, right?
yeah. Yeah. So when Joe first passed, as I stated, I had really lost hope that he would get better. He'd lost hope that he would get better. So, and I was very angry with God at the time. But after Joe passed, um, I was still angry, but I knew that I had to start holding on to hope,
Mhm.
because I didn't want this to be everything we went through to be in vain, that I wanted to make it better. And I had to have that hope that Jesus was going to pull me through that and to keep going. You know, if you don't have hope, what do you have? And
Mhm.
to me, it was so basic. It was the
Mhm.
base of my healing
Yeah.
was knowing and accepting that there was hope and that hope could be found in Jesus and his mercy.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, you ended up, yeah, you had a lot of rough years with Joe being here, and then I imagine because it was like being a caretaker, right? It was just probably a huge. I mean, you just what is your purpose after this all happens? And
right.
I can imagine you
Mm.
even saying, "Gosh, we struggled all this time, and then this is the ending of it." But you kept trusting him, and you kept having that hope, and your faith increased. And so I'll just say before we came on, Lisa's like, "Well, I don't know, like, what do you think, Karen?" And probably referring to both of us, like, "Well, how is your faith different and your hope and your trust from when, your kids passed away until now?" And, I was really kind of glad she directed the question to Karen because I was sort of a deer in the headlights.
Mhm.
Me too.
But we just all 3 and then Karen beautifully put it right back to Lisa and said, "Well, I don't know, Lisa, I think you should answer that question." So, you know what, Karen? Lisa, what has changed for you?
So that's thank you for that question. No, I it's interesting. I think those three pillars, along with the pillars, the hope, the trust, and the faith. I've always had faith, but my faith has completely changed. Um, we're being tested tremendously. So,
Yeah.
I had faith when my parents divorced, when I lost a baby, when I had a miss. There was different things that happen in your life, but this turns your apple cart over like nothing else. And I always say it broke me open. What did it broke me open to? So many things, and the hope was the one thing for me. I'm going to go with the hope. In the beginning, I went, and I always tell this story. I couldn't deal with the darkness, and I went to one support group that was not a Christian group, and there was so no hope. It was just dark, and I said I have to find something with light, with hope. And when I I googled, grieving moms slash hope, and here you were. So this is where, and that's the lifeline I hold on to. Trust for me was, from day one. I remember when I heard my son Christopher pass in 2018. I didn't understand it. The human brain can't put it together. So I just had to trust that, okay, it's going to be, I could put one foot in front of the other. I can make it to tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a week, then a month. I just have to trust that God has me, you know?
Mm, yeah.
Um, and, and again, my faith, after there have been moments when I was so angry, and, you know, Christopher died of fentanyl poisoning, and we didn't know a lot of what was going on. And there's a lot of puzzle pieces that I'll fill in later on when I see him again. Jackie and I have the joke, I'm going to punch him and then hug him. Like, what were you doing? But there
Yeah.
could have been, stuff that we didn't know, and maybe there was a shame going on and all that with him, and I don't know. So, my faith has been tested, my trust has been tested, and my hope has been tested. But I kind of, I work every day to see the lightness in it
Yeah.
all, not the darkness. So,
You know
Yeah.
what, the trust piece of it is to me that I had to trust and I have to trust that God has a perfect plan in all of this. And I have had to follow his lead.
hmm
And by following his lead, I can see where he has taken me step by step through the whole process. But I had to be willing to go. I had to be
Mm,
willing
right.
to walk through those doors and be confident. That's hard. Be
yeah.
confident that God knows what he's doing, and that if he has confidence in me, then I need to have confidence in myself.
Ooh,
Yeah, well
powerful.
said.
And so
Mm.
all along, and I continue to have that trust in him. When I have my groups, it's been frustrating. I've had a couple of in-person. I've done one online group and a couple of in-person, and it's like I'll advertise the in-person for months ahead of time, and nobody. And then all of a sudden, within a few days before, I may have a couple of people.
Mm,
show up. Just uh, and I have to reach out to Tammy, say hi to Tammy. She's one of my moms in my group.
Mm.
She's the one who's gone to two of my groups. So I'm
nice.
really
Well,
pleased to
hello,
have her.
Tammy. Thank you for being here to support Karen. So I don't know. I can put it to both of you, so don't put either one of you on the spot. So, but like when you mentioned about the group, Karen, you said like maybe it was just weeks before, maybe even days before. What do you think was going on with
Mm,
them?
I just I think it's hard for moms to take that step because it becomes a point of being in a room with women and having to be open and honest about feelings that they may not even understand at the time, and bringing up those hard feelings and the painful and the devastation is more than some moms can really handle,
mm,
Mm,
um, especially early on. And I do have one lady right now who's just a couple months in. She started about 6 weeks in, I think, and she's doing she's doing well. But I know that I know of other women who I wish would come to the group,
mm,
but they're just not ready, and
right.
that's okay. They have to be ready. But it's just like I wish I could just go
Mm.
and give them a hug and say, "You need to come."
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Shake
This
them up.
will help you so much.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so then when they're with you for a couple of weeks, and I'm gonna me or Lisa or Karen will come over and talk to you guys on the
Yeah,
comments in a minute.
I
It's
just wanna I can't get in, Jackie, I tried.
oh
Yeah, I
oh
don't know.
okay. Well, Karen can
I
see. I think she bumped you out.
I
okay.
can see them. Yeah,
Oh,
well,
okay. No, I can see them. I just can't when I try to comment, I can't.
I have my glasses on, I can see
I
'em.
initially put something into please welcome yourself if you wanna say where you're tuning in from and, your child's name and heaven date. But after
Huh.
that, I can't. Yeah, okay.
Well, so what I was gonna say is, so when the women do then show up, they make the decision whether or not they have pondered it for a while and they were afraid. But when they do show up, it's usually the first, second session. They come
Mm,
in, and then all of a sudden, it's like they could
mm,
just breathe.
Mhm.
Because I think it's like anything, ladies that are even
sure.
watching, it's like the fear of the unknown, and for something like this that is so unfamiliar to our hearts and our minds and our physical body, we don't know what to expect from moment to moment at times.
Mhm,
So to show up at a group, I think really the biggest thing is there's a lot of shame for, whatever. I mean, and if you guys know my story, I mean, it could be filled with shame, but I wouldn't let the enemy to come in to do that. Each one of us could have that.
mm,
But then, the other is that you're afraid to cry.
mm,
And
Exactly.
yeah,
Yes.
and isn't this is the safest place to do that. Every one of us, even me still on Facebook Live, will have a moment of just breaking down
Mhm.
sharing that. Is there like I'm sure you could think of both of you could think of your group time and having someone that has literally come up to you and said, "Wow, like I am so sorry that I waited this long because I have been
mm.
so alone doing this myself."
Yeah, I just want to jump in. My first group was in a church, and I had 5 moms, and I had a couple moms that said, "I don't know if I can do it." I talked to them prior a little bit on the phone, and this was before we did the Zoom thing. Um, and I said, if you just show up. If it's not for you, that's fine. And if you want to cry, it's fine. I had a big box of tissues, and I think a couple moms did just sit and cry, and then I said, the more you come in, and then they look back now because I still keep in touch, and they say, thank God, that I did show up. I don't know what I was getting at it, but just to have that embrace of other moms that are a few steps ahead,
Yeah.
and
Well, and
going
I've
through.
never had anybody regret that they came.
No, no, no.
Never.
Mm-mm. Well,
And, I always say tears are mandatory. If you're gonna be
Mm,
in my group, tears are mandatory.
yeah. She's not messing around. We gotta
Nope.
you gotta just be able to cry. And you know what? You may or may not get Kleenex, right? You just might have to
Sometimes that's happened.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just know that I commend both of you guys for, of course, stepping up and being a leader, and to all the women that have stepped up in this ministry to be a leader. And it keeps growing, which is a beautiful thing because I always tell, everybody in the ministry, the harvest is plenty, the workers are few. And the more that
Mhm.
we can have women that are leading these groups is going to be all the better for women around literally the world. So let me come back and let's see. I just told Karen, I said, these glasses I'm not able to read. So Tracy and Lynette made a comment. She said, "That's okay, Karen. I don't know how or when I found Jackie in this group, but so glad I did." And to Tammy, to Jennifer, to Deborah, and let's see, Naomi. I see
Rochelle's
some
here.
comments. And hi,
Rochelle.
Rochelle, Tracy, I think, and Lynn, Carol. Lynn's going to be coming on not that long from, or not that far from now. Like she's going to share her story.
Nice.
Eileen from Crown Point, Indiana. And let's see, I think I mentioned Tracy Ellen. My son John passed December 12th, 2021. Our deepest condolences and love to each one of you guys. And thank you for putting comments. So yeah, please don't be shy. That's what this is all about. Converse with each other as we are in conversation here. I want to tell you quickly about my afternoon. My no days, 2 days are really alike for me, and Lisa can attest to that. And so, but today, my biggest thing right now is I'm scrambling around to get being on my own. I have to do all those things that I shared with, my husband at the time. But then I come down and I'm editing the story. My landslide and the divine dig out, which is coming out by Christmas or sooner. So I sit down and it's one of those things that I'm not running to the computer to get to because it's taking me back to the landslide. And not only that, but it's just going over things over and over. So, but today, for an example, so Randy left us three 2-minute messages. He
Mm,
recorded them and they have been transcribed. And today, God just led me back to that. And I have to say, when we were first given those recordings, I remember I was coming home from a trip on my horses in California, and we had got the text message that they were going to send those messages over to me. Was it a good time? I'm like, is there ever going to be a good time? So we pulled over. I was with Kathy at the time. We were at the horses, and one of those horses, for unfortunately, just had to be put down this last week. God rest your soul, Sundance. And so I stood on the by the side of the road by the ocean, and I literally listened to those messages, and it ripped my
mm.
soul apart to hear my son's voice. But it was absolutely beautiful, everything
Oh,
that he
wow.
said, right? So it took my breath away. I was a mess. And then from that day, I put those aside and I hadn't touched it.
Mm,
And nor would I want to, because it's like you don't want to enter
mm.
into that again.
Right.
Mhm.
Just hearing your child's voice is so heart wrenching.
It's re-traumatizing, isn't it?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
like, I hear your voice, I just wanna reach out and I wanna grab hold of you and hug you till, like, and then somebody transcribed all of it, so then it was in text. I From time to time, and this was 2017-ish when we got those messages. Had it been almost a year from when he passed, we finally got him back from the police department, the Air Force, everything else I had. And so I put that aside. And so today I literally read through the
Mm,
transcription, and it was hard, but it just went to show how Jesus has carried me
mm,
through to where I know where Randy is. I know he's with the Lord. I know 100,000% that he's with the Lord. And I read those, and it does, pull on my heartstrings about I tried reaching out for this. I tried this, mom. I tried this. And it hurts. But Jesus has carried me through so much to the
mm,
point where I wasn't a mess today after I read those. And in fact, I copied and pasted two things that I know that my sons would want to remember of what he said to the boys. And they were very appreciative. And now I think that they're ready to actually hear the recorded messages because I don't think they've seen it or heard it for a while. either.
Wow.
So we're talking, 9 years
Hmm.
already that it has been to where it's like it still hurts, it's still there. But what am I trying to say is the faith, hope, and the trust
Mm.
that has grown with us. I guess that's how I'd answer the question, you guys, is that
Right.
my faith, hope, and trust isn't something that I could just say, boom, there it was. It has just increased little by little. And then all of a sudden, now when the question gets presented to us in all seriousness, we go, of course, I can't answer that
Right.
because it's not just one moment, it's been a
Mhm.
process of that. But it's not going to continue to be on the healing side unless you keep investing in spending time in his word and spending time with your other mamas that are in here because we don't necessarily we don't speak it, but there's like a silent rule that no one in this ministry ever discourages anyone. No one brings up
Mm-mm.
derogatory things. Nobody condemns anybody. No one says you should have done that or you should have done.
Mm.
It is just like an unspoken
Yeah.
law rule that's in this ministry because why we trust Jesus.
And I have to just give kudos to you, Jackie, because I know that that's like a positive nature, and it's also a choice we make. I don't think we choose to find our healing in each other's stories. I say that again all the time. I do anyway. When I hear the stories, it doesn't bring me down. It gives me hope. It gives me
Mm,
courage.
yeah.
So
Well, and I've seen both of you grow. Honestly, it's just been amazing. In fact, before we even came on, I had the pleasure of seeing, Karen and Lisa sitting together on a couch at the retreat together, laughing hysterically at absolutely really nothing.
yeah,
I mean, if we told you, you would be like, "Okay." But it was so amazing to see them laughing
yeah.
together so much in that time, and despite the geographical distance that we all have, there's a bond that will be forever there, right?
And
Always.
it's okay to laugh. That's a big one.
Well,
Yeah.
you're right. There's no guilt in that, right?
No,
Yeah.
No,
we have to
Karen,
keep living.
we
how
have
is your
to.
does your group get to laugh, Karen? Because I can imagine you probably make them
We do
laugh.
laugh. Yes. We do laugh. We may start out crying, but we end laughing.
Sure.
Let's see. I'm making sure I didn't miss on anything.
Mm-mm.
So, as we continue to journey through this, everybody that is watching right now tonight, we just really want to encourage you to know that there's everybody says I've got this, I can walk through this by myself, and if you haven't gotten it by now, what we try to promote is a deep relationship with Jesus and to get together in our communities, and you have nothing to lose. And like
Mhm.
Karen said, nobody has regretted showing up to her group because my passion and my heart, if and these two ladies, just for an example, know that my heart is that I don't want any mom to have to be in the dark. I I do this because I love what I do because I know that I've seen what has happened and it's not because of me, it's not because of Karen, it's not because of Lisa or any of the other leaders. It's because we stand on the rock. We will forever stand on the rock. And we have a big retreat coming up that's, in October. I am so excited about. I'm going to have 30 women there that I get to hug, some for the very first time. And what I already know is that there's going to be some amazing friendships, lifelong friendships that are going to happen despite, again, the geographical distance that is taking place. And I could share on and on about all the things that have happened in a positive sense. The tragedy that's happened in my family's life and in Karen's and in Lisa's and all of you, there is going to be, again, hating to say sound so cliche, but beauty from the ashes that is going to come out
Mm.
of it. And just to think that you guys have been called in a very, very special way. Maybe you don't know what it is right now. Maybe you don't want to know what it is, but just
Mm.
trust that whether it's here in this ministry or here in your community or just to one other mom, share your story and what he has done in your life.
Well,
There's a
before,
saying I like to say, it's we don't have to walk this journey alone. And I say that in my groups. And we don't. We have, first of all, we have Jesus. But
Mhm.
second of all, we have a sisterhood here of mothers who totally understand what it's like to lose a child. And that gives us a really strong bond, just like you were saying. And
Mhm,
I know people that don't um, don't follow Jesus and don't believe in him,
mhm,
and they just keep wallowing in their suffering, and
Mhm.
they have no hope
Yeah,
because our
yeah,
hope is found in Jesus.
yeah.
And that's the first thing we have to believe and hold on to, that it we will get through this. And like Jackie
yeah,
always says, we will be okay.
Mm.
I stole
right.
it from you.
Yeah, well said,
Mhm.
Karen. Well said.
I love the first time I went, she had the "Don't should on yourself" over the fireplace, and I
My
used that,
sign.
well, the sign of "Don't should," because I was living in I shoulda, coulda, woulda, and that was not. Before we came on, Karen, you said something very nice about the hope, trust, and faith, what it meant to you. You had little notes or whatever. What
Yeah,
did you
cheap
say?
sheet.
Yeah, what was that? Because it was good. Mhm.
Um, so I think I said most of it.
Oh,
But so hope to me was assurance that God, in his ever present love and infinite mercy, had given me a promise that there would be something good come from the devastation of living a challenging life with Joe and ultimately losing him.
mm,
That our difficult life with Joe would not have been in vain. Hope in Christ was the very first thing I had to grab hold of. It was the only thing I had to keep me going, knowing it was possible to move through this awful pain with Jesus.
mm,
And then there was
mm,
trust that God does have a plan to make the pain have a purpose.
mm,
That if I follow his lead, he will take me where he wants me to be. And that's something that's still going on. That really hasn't changed, but it's followed me all through this. Um, I mentioned earlier following him through the doors that he opens for me, and be
mhm,
willing to do that, and to uh, clearly be able to see what's in front of me, but
mm.
not the whole picture, but
Hmm.
Right.
but to have trust that God is going to be good and get me
Mm,
through that. Um, Even though sometimes it was scary.
mm,
Yeah.
mm.
But I knew that if God had confidence in me to do something, then I need to have confidence in myself. And I mentioned that early.
Yeah.
Faith is knowing that God is walking beside me every day, step by step, hand in hand, and he knows what he is doing, which is always the very best for me.
Mm,
And I must be faithful and follow him wherever that may be.
mm.
So that's kind of what faith, hope, and trust mean
Yeah.
to me. And they're so basic in what I believe in this whole process of grief and the grief journey and getting through it.
Hmm. Beautiful, Karen. And
Yes.
Lisa, I'm so grateful that you mentioned about her because I know that you didn't want to read all, but I'm so glad that you did read that
No, it was
because it's
wonderful.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking. Yes.
Let's see,
I
Tracy.
I hope it lights someone's path. I found I loved what you said. And what strikes me is that it is a choice. You mentioned that those who don't have that hope, that it just they get stuck in that darkness, but it also
Mhm.
gets worse, I think. I
Yeah.
think they get deeper into that mush, and it's hard to kinda get out of that, so you have to kinda
Mhm.
choose every day and sometimes every moment to try to trust,
Exactly.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a
So,
choice all the time.
yeah, yeah,
Even
it
now.
really is, it really is, and some people you may feel hopeless and helpless in the beginning, you don't know what you feel, but you have to begin to choose it, you know?
Yeah.
Have
Yeah,
faith and hope
yeah,
and trust that God knows what he's doing.
it is true,
And
yeah.
he does.
Yeah, he does. Uh, can you read Tracy's comment, Karen?
Think what you started this. You speak safety and follow for a year before I said yes, I'll do landslide, and you said in the group, I belong. I love Rochelle, and I thank you for bringing her to me and all of us in this group. So
Amen.
Rochelle, our leader, our
Shout out to
fearless
Rochelle.
leader.
Way to go, Rochelle. Rochelle being another leader. Debbie saying, I lost my son August 2006, and I lost another son February
Mm.
19th, 2023. I'm so sorry, Debbie.
Well,
I
Yeah.
don't I don't recall if you have been on here before or not, Debbie. Thank you for your courage. We have a mom that's a leader, and her name is Carol. She's lost three boys, and her faith, her and her husband's faith, are both incredibly strong. So if you are looking to become involved in a group, I'm not sure where Carol's at this point with her group, but if you go to grievingmoms.com, and you could probably get a hold of them and see, hopefully, how we can help you, my friend.
Or if anything, you could just read her story and know you're not alone in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the leaders, when you go under the website, you'll go under and it shows the leaders and it will share a brief part of their story. And yes, it will definitely give you some hope. And I'm looking forward to gathering together with the leaders this next month over in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, at Adri's house. And this is the time where we get to love on each other, support one another, celebrate together, talk about groups, talk about praise reports, things like that. And of course, it's a huge bonding time for the women because we typically just see each other on Zoom, but it's just an amazing reunion. I lost my husband of 38 years, February 10th. I'm so sorry,
Mm.
Valerie. Loss is not for sissies, you guys. And I just, as Karen was saying, there's people that they don't know Jesus. And I guess I'll revisit that for a second and to say that, we've all potentially been at a place, unless you've known Jesus since childbirth, pretty much, and he's just always been a part of your family. And yet at the end of the day, even our sanctification process, it keeps growing and you get to know him. But this last weekend I was up on the mountain at Mount Bachelor here in Oregon, and our church was there wanting to do a reach out into the community, and we had a tent set up and everything. And it's like I was telling the leaders last night, we had our monthly meeting, and it's like you're immersed in this world, and the world and all of the beautiful things, because there are a lot of beautiful things, but there's a lot of hard things that's there. There's a lot of evil that's there, but we're so immersed in it. When you go up to the mountain and you do just something like Jesus did, which is to go out into the crowd. I remember when Peter was said, Jesus told Peter, "You will deny me 3 times," right? And so I thought about that when I was up the mountain, because here I have a shirt on. It identifies me, as one man called me, a Jesus freak. And so I'm like, whatever, you can call me whatever. But I did ask him why he felt that way. But there was moments where it was like you're in the crowd and you're having so much fun watching them. They were doing this skiing down the mountain on their skis in the snow and then across a pond of water, and the crowds are going wild and it's all exciting, and you're in the moment on this earth. And there's nothing wrong with that. It was very fun. But in that moment, it's like you've
Mm.
got a shirt that's representing Jesus in that moment. And how easily it could have been for me to just reject him by saying, if somebody was said, "Oh, you're a Jesus freak," and you don't want to all of a sudden be rejected. You want to just mingle in with the crowd, right? But you know that that's why you're there and how much you love him and what he's carried you through. But as I looked around at all the lost people, and there
Mm.
was a lot of lost people dressed up in costume and doing things that were not necessarily appropriate. And then I just had to remember whose I was in that moment and how easily Peter had Jesus right in his face. And yet he rejected him 3 times because he was worried, right, about potentially getting killed in the moment. Now, my situation wasn't as bad as that, of course, but I just thought about that. And so we all have levels of how we know Jesus. And as time goes on, and especially if you've gone through a landslide as this, you can go one way or the other. You can be mad at him, and I just lovingly say, how is that working for you? Because if you want to be mad at him, that's just going to keep delaying your healing. Or you could say, I don't understand you, but I want to get to know you because I know I'm going to get to meet you and I'm going to get to see my child again. So don't dig in your heels and say, I don't want to know this man. He took my son, because no, he did not. I
Mhm.
won't know this man because he took my daughter. No, he did not.
Mhm.
Get to know him. Get to know him. Um, Let me talk on this. Do you guys have anything else that you would like to share before we sign off?
No, I want to thank Karen for jumping in. And, if there's a mom out there that wants to tell her story, right, Jackie?
Yeah.
You were talking about the tapes. I forgot I wanted to ask you. All that information is going to be in your upcoming book, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's the conversation that me and my husband had with Randy when he fled the house
Hmm.
and he actually answered the phone is all transcribed. And when you read it from a psychology standpoint, not just a
Right.
spiritual standpoint, but there's a term called disassociation
Sure.
and how someone can literally click in and out of these places in the mind. And that
Mm,
whole message that we had together was from him being in the house when the attack happened, in that he clicked out to being in the mode that he was trained to be, into being in the car with his mom and dad on the phone, pleading and saying, Mom, you don't understand what I did. No, they're not going to be okay. And please forgive me. Two different people, two
yeah.
different people. So, from a psychology standpoint, the people that we have counseled with, they have been absolutely just blown away that we took the time to record that conversation we had with him. And again, I know a lot of you, you're not even understanding what I'm talking about because you probably don't know my
Mhm.
story, but soon to come out. So yeah, it's remarkable how the mind can work and how the enemy could literally get in there and just control it. And we say this, everything we do, we have to say, in Jesus' name, we ask the enemy to flee.
Mm.
That's what Marseille said in the middle of Randy coming after them. And they're still alive, just as a side note. I'd
And
be the
I
cliffhanger.
tell you, that's like the story when you tell it. And then what I glean from that is like every day we have those moments of letting that in, that darkness, and you choose, no, Jesus, please push that thought away. Don't let that darkness hide your light, is what you told me. And it's
Mhm.
true. I hold on to that for sure.
Oh, I love
Every
that,
day, every
Lisa.
day. Hmm.
I love that, Lisa. Yeah, and I have my stories definitely shared on podcasts. It's Marseille. My daughter loves Randy's previous
Hmm.
wife. She has a podcast called It's Marseille, and I was recently on Laura Deal, Diehl, is it's a grieving parents podcast. So if you just type in my name, podcast or whatever, you'll be able to hear the story in its entirety. Other than that, look forward to reading it because I've poured my
Hmm.
heart and soul and prayers into this book, and I be honest, I cannot wait for it to be done for numbers of reasons.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's all
Hmm.
I have to say. But yeah, thank you for mentioning that, Lisa. Yeah, you
Hmm.
guys have look at Karen. Karen's. I don't think she's sweating. I think she still feels pretty calm. We made it hopefully easy for her, and she's kind of a natural at this anyway. But she came on to
Yeah.
share, and it was literally last minute, right, Karen?
Yeah, well, last night, so
That's kind of last minute. Yeah,
well,
I don't
I
even know.
appreciate being on here because I feel so strongly in sharing that
Yeah.
how important it is to have faith and keep our hope and have
Hmm.
trust because God has a plan and
Hmm.
it's a good plan and he
Yeah.
will not make anything we've been through be in vain, like I said earlier. It's
Yeah.
just, it's God has a plan and it can be for good, but we've got to have faith and trust.
Yeah.
We have to be trusting and following his lead.
Karen, I just love the compassion in just everything that you just said now and this whole time. It,
Mm,
it is
mm,
so relevant that Jesus has worked through your life, my friend, because I've
yeah.
got to sit in the front row to be able to watch him
Mhm.
transform your life. And yeah, amen. Thanks for such a beautiful message, Karen, for sure.
Mhm.
That's what Lynette just said. So I'm honored to have you as my friend and of course as a leader in this ministry. And it was just so fun to get to finally give you a big hug at the
Mhm.
retreat
Mhm.
this
Mhm.
last fall. And we
Yes,
hope
it
to get to
was.
do that soon. And but yeah, Lisa,
Mhm.
we've called her the retreat junkie. She's never short of like having a funny story. You
No.
don't get to see that side of her, but I promise you, she'll probably have to share the graveside story at some point. We'll give you an opportunity just for that.
Yeah.
But
You
to
know,
everyone, go ahead.
yeah, no, my daughter always says, "Mom, if I lose you in a crowd, I can always find you because it's the women. You're surrounded by people and they're laughing." So there's something to it. But and I couldn't. It's interesting to find and just find joy. How you find joy out of this. But everything in my life now, just how you talk about how things have changed, is so much richer. You appreciate everything more.
Oh, yeah.
Mm,
Take nothing for granted. And I have
Mhm.
no time for the BS, to be
yeah,
No,
honest. No time.
yeah, yeah,
So
no.
that's how it opens you up, I think, to the good.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I've gained a lot of more empathy and compassion
Mm,
for,
Yes.
people who previously I would have been very judgmental. I'll be open and honest about that.
sure.
But,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
am not now.
Yeah, I think a lot of us could carry the scarlet letter, so to speak, that, about our kids. But, I think the other big, big part of what this ministry does is to help to remove the stigma of people being judgmental over a child that has died from addiction or from suicide loss or all those other things.
Hmm.
I think of the devastation of the families that have been a part of stories such as Columbine and Sandy Hook and all these different things, and then you immediately go to the parents and you blame the parents. And
Mhm.
that is just not fair. That is just being so judgmental. And they didn't walk what we have walked. You didn't ask for this. You guys, everybody that is watching, know that you were great mamas. And don't let the enemy tell you any differently
Right.
of what you could have done, what you should have done. None of that, as you keep hearing, because it's a lie. You could not have have saved your child because God had already ordained the day that our child would go home to heaven based on their choices, the fall of sin, all of those things. So nothing would have stopped. My grandson has said to me, Noni, do you think if you would have come out and flown there that night, would daddy have tried to kill you too? As
Mm.
just to leave you as a cliffhanger.
Oh,
I mean, it was a heavy comment, and I said, no, I don't know. But the story played out the way it did. You're alive, your brother's alive, your mama's alive, your grandpa's alive.
Mhm.
So, we don't know. It's a mystery. If we knew all the answers, Jesus would just be a buddy, but he's not. He's God, and he
Mhm.
loves us. And so we are definitely held back from some of the answers that we want. So just be peaceful in the way that things worked out, because as I guess Lisa's daughter says, Mom, you're not God. There's
No,
nothing you
she
could have
she
done.
says, "Mom, you're not that powerful."
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah.
There's a line from, what's the movie? Rudy, I guess, where he tries to get on the football team, the football movie, and he goes to the priest and he says, "What can I do?" He says, "The one thing I've learned in all my years is that there is a God, and I'm not it, and I'm not him."
I remember
You
that.
know? And that's another good line.
Yeah, I
Get
remember
no
that.
control. Yeah. But
Yeah. Well, we will bring this time together to an end. And I just want to say thank you to
mhm,
both of my beautiful friends
yes.
for being here. I know that they're a little further on the other side of the country. It's getting a little bit late for them, but
Mhm.
my heart just says thank you, a big thank you to both of you. As always, I have much more of a fun time being on here with you guys. And to everybody that's watching here, please know that we love you guys, even if
Mhm.
we don't
yes.
know you personally, but we know what your heart feels like. That's one thing
Yeah.
I could say for sure. And maybe we could do this in sync, the three of us. Can we all say what I always say at the
Oh
very
boy.
end? All right, here we go.
You're
You're
Gonna
going to
gonna be
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 okay.
okay.
okay. That's pretty good. You're gonna be okay, you guys. Well, God bless you, and we will see you next week, okay? Take care.
Good night.